Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the number 6 in a series of webinars called Freshly Certified, brought to you by the RGD. Today's focus is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. For me personally, it is branding, so our branding edition. My name is Amanda Boltë, and I'm the Director of Creative and Brands at Motif Labs in Elmer, Ontario. I'm a serial freelancer, mentor, and designer, and I'm also a certified RGD. I currently serve as the Vice Chair of the Certification Committee with Victor, and as well as a secretary on the Board of Directors. I'm also a certification presentation reviewer, so one of those many faces that you might see when you go through the process. So if you have any questions to our presenters today, please use the chat in the control panel, and we will hold all the questions to the end so all of our panelists are able to present, because we do have 4 great case studies to get through today. So today's webinar is discussing the RGD certification experience, but mainly focused around the case study development and the presentation. Our panel today of recently certified RGDs will break down the case studies, why they chose it, the process of putting it together, gathering the assets to results, and how they chose to present it. But first, for those who are interested in the RGD and the overall certification process, let me just do a little general introduction. Awesome. RGD members are a community of 4,000 like-minded professionals, including firm owners, freelancers, managers, educators, and students, with access to professional development, resources, and a vibrant exchange of information. Through the RGD, Canadian designers exchange ideas, educate and inspire to set professional standards and build a strong, supportive community dedicated to the advocating for the value of design. If you want more information about RGD and the resources available for members or the larger design community events, please visit the website at rgd.ca. But today we're going to be talking about certification. Becoming an RGD is broken down. Becoming a certified RGD is broken down to 4 steps: filling out the application to see if you're eligible, taking an online test, virtual online portfolio review, and the presentation of the results to the RGD. But today, our focus is about the fun part, in my opinion, is the virtual online portfolio review. This is where the designers get to be designers. This is where you get to nerd out on your work and really talk about the fun, intricate parts of it. Portfolios are presented virtually over 30 minutes to 3 senior designer practitioners serving as RGD reviewers, like me. Candidates present the same 6 pieces submitted as part of the RGD certification application. During the review, you are to speak to all of the case studies within 30 minutes while going in depth of one of those 6 pieces. If you want to learn more about the details about the certification, there's a fantastic free monthly webinar that Heidi herself does that goes into depth about the entire process, and recordings are available on the RGD website. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to her as well. Yeah. So our first presenter today is from Edmonton, Alberta. Abiola has over 12 years experience in specializing in brand and visual identity and developed in print and digital. His project today is going to be talking about the Canadian Western Bank brand refresh. Ulu, I can't wait to see your work.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for the introduction. It's good to be here. My name is Olu Abiola, and I am employed by Canadian Western Bank as a creative services advisor. And I prepare creatives for a wide array of marketing and communication channels, web, digital advertising, social media, and print. I started building my case study around September, and I got my certification in December 2021, right before Christmas. So you can say that was a great way to end the year. I was hesitant at first to start the certification process, because I thought it was going to take a longer time, but going through the resources online, it really helped me a lot. So what led me into wanting to get my certification was that I wanted to test myself, add to my credibility as a designer, and I also wanted to demonstrate my love and commitment for this profession, connect with other design-minded people, and kind of enhance my professional image. So enough about me. I'll start sharing my screen here. Awesome. So the case study I'm presenting today is the Canadian Western Bank brand refresh that happened in 2019. And my role in this project was that of a support designer. I chose this project because it is the one that has provided me with the biggest learning curve in my career. In my previous places of work, I never really worked with a graphic standard that I made myself. It was already pre-made when I got there. So working as a part of the team that formulated this design standards kind of is like special to me. And in my presentation to the panelists, I make sure to explain the rationale behind the rebrand and show images of initial design like you can see on the screen, and how I transferred them over to my final pieces. So if you're thinking about pursuing your certification, I encourage you to not only talk about the masterpiece you've done, the beautiful work, but also explain in details what led to it. So in 2019, Canadian Western Bank pursued a new brand positioning to appeal to a larger demographic and kind of maintain its relevance in the banking industry. The organization employed a bolder visual identity with like brighter colors, fresh fonts, and its first logo modernization since 1988. So when we started this, we reached out to the agency to establish initial brand elements that would bring our vision to life. And I was part of a group that met with the agency to set expectation, SLAs, and so on. So as a support designer, I was it was kind of important for me to immerse myself in understanding the brand guidelines created by the agency and carrying them over to my designs. The research consisted of finding ways to create brand continuity without deviating too much from the older identity. So we carried over our teal color, our gold colors, and built a new color palette around them. And we also researched how to manage the outcome of our changing brand. How will employees react to this change? How will we communicate with employees to ease them into the new brand and keep them engaged? So we decided to go with a phased approach where we listed important items and items that can come later. So we started designing items that were client-facing first, things like stationery packages, presentation folder, quarterly fact sheets, AGM invites, and so on. And these were all created to be cohesive to the agency's initial guidelines. So while I was designing the stationery package, I was also developing a microsite, like an eight-page microsite in tandem to empower employees and let them know that we're still the same company and we still have the same mission and vision statement. And but we are heading towards a new direction with a renewed approach, like the same direction with a renewed approach. So the design process involved lots of touch points, lots of exploration, presentation, and feedback. And I would go away with the lead designer and talk to the other designers. Like we make several iterations and until we were satisfied. And we also shared these deliverables amongst ourselves so we can, keep each other's motivated and influence each other to create that brand cohesion. And we agreed to using triangles as our main brand shape because they resonated with everybody as what is characteristic, like as a characteristic of our client experience module, which is like proactive banking, always moving forward. So with the stationery package, a lot of background testing was done, like the one you can see on the screen. Like we had to try longest and shortest names possible, designations, email addresses, and so on to see what the card can accommodate. Created letterhead templates to make sure the Word documents for branches fit into the printed shells, and also making sure that template were accessible to employees for order on our digital storefront. So I was working with a programmer, like going back and forth with emails, kind of see how to make this happen. And we were also ensuring that our color translated well in print and digital platforms, so that we see like they pass the accessibility standards for digital platforms or people with varying visual abilities. So when COVID happened, we were reviewing our reports, our usage report, and we noticed our brand momentum started to dwindle. So I came up with the idea of creating a gift card to the procurement team, so that employees can go on the PGP store. PGP store is where we order our brand swag and other branded CWB materials and give to other employees. And this was well received. The whole process contributed a 19% increase in brand familiarity amongst employees in 2019, and it keeps rising. You know, the increased interest in wearing CWB brand swag amongst employees. There were large orders on the premium gift store for branded materials, and employees were even gifting their teammates items to kind of show like a token of their appreciation for them in doing a good job. And it increased brand camaraderie and team camaraderie rather. And CWB just reached $1 billion in assets for the first time last year. And I feel like projects like this are what at the water droplets that kind of make the ocean. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ulu. That was a great presentation. I'm not going to talk too much to, oops, I am not, my camera's not on. Look at that. Did you find gathering all that stuff pretty simple to do? Like you've got quite a spread of design work there.
Yeah, so I'll say it was pretty easy when I put my mind to it. The most part that was like the huge process for me was writing my case study, and like because my work was scattered all over my hard drive, just bringing all of them together and writing a case study around them was pretty strenuous starting. But I went online and I started looking at the sample case studies and like the samples, the tests, samples and steps that were provided, and those were very helpful in building this out.
Excellent. That's a great tip. I know that most designers we're not always the most organized people in the whole human race. So that's, you come by it honestly. Creativity can be messy. Excellent. So we'll move on to our next one. We have Kerri MacLeod, who is from Kawartha Lakes, Ontario. Kerri is a multidisciplinary graphic designer working at RC Design, a creative marketing agency in Newmarket, Ontario. As a strategically focused designer with a passion for accessibility, Kerri has been assisting companies with their branding, marketing, and user experience for over 10 years. Kerri will be presenting a brand evolution and brand guidelines case study for Precision Content, a company who specializes in information architecture. And I'd like to thank Kerri especially too. She has just joined the certification committee, so she's getting involved in this as well. So it shows that you can be freshly certified and get really involved in the RGD right away. So thank you so much for everything, Kerri.
Thanks. That's nice for you to say. So yeah, you'll, just like Amanda was saying, you'll probably see my face now on the panel of people you present to if you go through the process. So I look forward to seeing your work now. We'll swap. I'll do mine now and I'll see yours later. So I'll just present my screen right now. Hang on. Shared. Okay. So this case study was the last in my presentation when I was applying. It was the most robust one that I had, probably because it was the most recent work that I have done. As Amanda mentioned, I'm a multidisciplinary designer in Newmarket, Ontario for a marketing agency called RC Design. So I did this work at that agency, and the client's name is Precision Content. They do kind of information architecture for their clients, helping to create, manage, and deliver content, data, information, all that kind of stuff to their clients. And the goal was to create a brand evolution. So we wanted to evolve their brand, the whole brand, their logo. And then the main thing that we wanted to do for them was standardize their brand and have some rules in place with a really robust brand guidelines. So next. So some of my screens that I did, that I applied into my case study here, was just some before after information, like this screen here. I've got their logo on the left, their original one, and then our maturation on the right, just to kind of show that first step in the process, and making sure you're outlining obviously your goals of the project, which I just did, talking about doing the logo maturation, but more importantly, the brand guidelines. And then stating your role in the project is important to the process, to the application process, I mean, which is a mistake that I made when I first applied in my application, the way that I worded things, just as a fun fact tip. When you're working in an agency, I feel like it's just natural to describe things as we, because I just work as a team and I have other designers there and I have a creative director and programmers, and it's a team effort. But even though I was the lead on the project and I did all the creative myself, I still used the word we when I wrote my application. So I had to do an alteration to fix that so that they had a better understanding of my role in the project. So just as an FYI, when you're moving forward with the process, to state your role a little bit more clearly than I had. Anyways, process. When I went through my presentation, I then discussed the process starting with the persona docs. So this is something we did at the agency. We created persona docs for our client, and I used that. I referenced these anyways for figuring out the target audience, and then I went to do a competitive audit and sketches and a lot of research. The hard part I found was trying to find sketch work. My notebooks and sketch pads and stuff were kind of lost in the pandemic, moving to remote work and stuff. So I had to scour to find kind of thought process kind of work. So anyways, I did find some old artboards after the sketch process. So this is what I included in my presentation to show. So it's not pretty, and it doesn't need to look pretty. They're sketches, so I just kept them as rough as they were. I didn't clean them up. I just screenshotted them essentially and threw them into my presentation. As you can see, I was just testing some colors and some fonts, moving in with a couple other shapes in the next slide. I even had some workboards where I kind of started doing that competitive analysis and trying to figure out how I would play that out. So this is all my pre-design work, the sketch and audit kind of stuff. So after that, then we went to present concepts to the client. So again, in my presentation, what I just did was, again, screenshot what that presentation actually looked like to the client. So this is just one of the pages. We showed the first logo option. We presented three up, and here I go again, I presented three logo options, moving from a simple evolution to a more of a rehaul of their brand design, and then focusing on three different keywords, just so that we can try to narrow down with the client what direction to go predominantly. So I kind of give a wide range so that I can get a better understanding from the client after this point, which direction to go. So we're starting off with a simple evolution, just a simple cleanup with the logo, and then a bit of a mood board for a brand story, figuring out what kind of look and feel aesthetic we want to go with for colors and fonts and photography, illustration, etc. Also including in that competitive analysis audit and those keywords. So these are the keywords they had given us that they had described themselves at. which is quite a few. So what I had done is just kind of emphasize the one that I'm predominantly focusing on in that brand story anyways. So collaboration, that kind of partnership and warmth, a vibe for that storyboard. And then another example, we'll just move on. I'll just quickly kind of skim through these ones, but the other two concepts, this one's a little bit more innovative. We've changed the mark a little bit more. We're pushing the boundaries even further, getting a little bit more techie here, giving that innovative vibe, but still being kind of approachable and honest and those other keywords that we were looking for in this story. And then the last one, even further away from where they originally were at, with the mark, with the typography, with the look and feel. We're going a lot more authoritative here, more thought leader, more education, because that's another one of their kind of service pillars. So we wanted to give that as an option. So anyways, those are our three concepts. They ended up going with kind of a combination of the two. We wanted a more conservative evolution of the logo, and then pushing a little bit more of those innovative ideas into the brand. So the next few pages are just some of the highlights from the brand guidelines. It's such a huge document that I obviously couldn't present the entire brand guidelines in my portfolio presentation. So what I did was just highlight some of the key things that I felt were unique or different to my brand guidelines that I've seen in others, and things that highlighted more extra thought to solving problems than just the regular, like here's your color palette and here's your typography choice and here's your rules on how to use your logo, that kind of stuff. So other than this slide, this is kind of like a before what their brand looked like, illustrating that is a little bit all over the place. We wanted to consolidate. They had different branches that we wanted to unify. That was what this slide was for. Anyways, then into the actual pages I was just talking about. So this one I felt was really unique because I didn't see a lot of these in my research, but I felt it was important to give the client the tools that they needed to be AODA compliant with their brand. A lot of rebrands or current brands have an issue, in my opinion, with just picking what looks nice and then forgetting that their main brand color isn't accessible online or in print, and then having to like kind of hack their brand to make it compliant when you're going through. So I didn't want to leave them hanging on that. So I made this page to kind of make sure that they had primary colors that were AODA compliant, and showing them and explaining to the client what that means with the description, kind of link to the accessibility guidelines online, and then their accent colors, which are the brighter, funner, popper colors, and explaining why those we cannot use in typography reasons for accessibility. So outlining that here on this page, I thought was important and unique to this presentation. Another unique one that I wanted to add in my portfolio presentation was typography. As simple as this is, it came up because we got to work on so many of their marketing materials that it dawned on me that they don't have access to, unlimited licenses for a font for every single person in their massive company. So they need an option that's free, even though the brand that I came up with is a paid licensed font or an Adobe licensed font. So the majority of them, or the main design team, would have it. But let's say, somebody on, I don't know, some other department, they need to make a memo or a quick little poster to send out to their clients or their division, needed something free. So I gave a Google font option. And then I also gave a system font option. So this is where I came into problems with email signatures, or the difference between a PC and a Mac, like what they had to present with PowerPoint instead of Keynote. Then I had font, conversion issues and stuff. So I needed to make sure that we had, an option for all of the scenarios that could happen. And then I gave links to all of those, so make it easy for anybody who grabs this document within the company to go and source those fonts. And the icon library was another big one. Illustration styles and icon stuff was a big part of my project here. So that was really important. I've got an example slide of what I had to work with. So they had an icon page like this that was their original library that had many different styles and were confusing and not consistent. So I did a lot. There was a lot of back and forth going through every single icon that they would use, cleaning them up and making it consistent. So that's what this slide is. And then the last couple slides is just illustration stuff. So, but the unique part that I wanted to show with these slides was that I gave them the source to stock. So again, not most companies aren't going to have the budget to continue to hire you to hand illustrate every single piece of artwork that they're going to need in a PowerPoint or a presentation or on their website or whatever. So I went and did the legwork of sourcing a style that they could readily, easily find on Getty or iStock or whatever, and giving them the link to find it. And like, what artist makes the most of this type of isometric style drawing that we want the brand to look like. And another example is they had kind of a robot clip art that they had been using. So I wanted to find something consistent to what we were doing with the illustration style, but again, an artist specific that has a style that we like, and giving them the link to do so. And the last few pages of my presentation were just kind of those before images from the slides I had to work with from the client. Here's that like stock robot that I was kind of replacing, some of their other illustration stock styles that they had used in the past. And then my cleanup, bringing it all together with the new logo, the fonts, their new illustration style and colors and stuff like that. So this is kind of my ending screen for my presentation, just wrapping up all the, an example of a marketing piece that I put together with their brand standards and yeah, just bringing it all together. So that is quickly a run through of my presentation, mostly highlighting just kind of why I chose what I chose for my slides. And I didn't go into super depths with making mock-ups or anything look extra pretty, which I felt a bit self-conscious for, but I think it turned out like fine in the end. Obviously, I passed the certification test and the presentation, so I think I did okay. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that you don't have to put in as much effort as you think. The work that you presented to your client, if it went by with your client all right, it's probably going to go by okay with the panel. So most of my stuff in my stuff is like screenshots from the actual work that I did.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kerri.
No problem.
I remember sitting in on this one and you did fantastic. It's fun to talk about your work. And I think you brought up a really good point that a lot of people often say we. It's something that is really hard to overcome. But this is like your shot. This is about you. It's about, showcasing your work and how what your contributions to it is. So thank you for bringing up that point. I think that was really important. You mentioned that, being lost in the pandemic about trying to find stuff. Did you have any other challenges with, collecting anything, or like, was it difficult to get started with knowing, we're facing this like little challenge, or was it almost easier in a way of presenting and doing this in a virtual kind of platform?
I think definitely having the virtualness of it in this pandemic age made it more appealing to me, I think, to apply. I felt like the process was faster because of it. So that I think helped push me along. But definitely the pandemic and just in general, being a designer and moving from agency to agency, my work is kind of all over the place. And the main thing that I struggled to find was that process work, that sketch work. So like, I don't know from 5-6 years ago where my sketchbook is for some other project that I did, or even where the wireframes were for some website that I did, which I would have preferred to have had to kind of show, but I scrounged a bit to find that kind of work.
And I think it's important to say that this was the case study that you went in depth with. So it's not necessarily something that you wouldn't have to tell that elongated of a story or that way of telling a story for every single case study as well.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Excellent. Thank you, Kerri. I'm going to, in the essence of time, I'm going to keep moving on to our next one. Alona Topolnisky from Whitby, Ontario. Alona is an award-winning graphic designer with both in-house and agency experience, and is currently a creative marketing specialist in Whitby, Ontario, as I just said, in the region of Durham, Economic Development and Tourism Department. Alona is passionate about branding, problem solving, and projects that have meaningful impact to the community. She's going to be presenting the Downtowns of Durham, which was a project was developed to provide support to Durham region's vibrant downtown and Main Street area businesses during COVID-19 and beyond. Alona, it's yours. I can't wait.
Thank you. Just give me 1 second. Okay, we're good. So hello, everyone. It's great to be here and thank you for having me. My name is Alona. I've been a graphic designer for about 13 years. I've worked in-house for an agency and now for the government. So I kind of feel like I've worked everywhere. And I received my RGD certification in December of 2020. So this project was like my COVID project while we were stuck at home, and it was something positive I could work on. Currently, I am a creative marketing specialist at the region of Durham in the Economic Development and Tourism Department. Our focus is to promote Durham region as a great place to live, work, and invest. And where I come in is for a wide range of graphic support, from creating accessible PDFs, creating graphics for digital and social media campaigns, branding refreshes, and overall, I ensure that our brands are being used consistently. The case study I'll be presenting today is the Downtowns of Durham project that I worked on at the region of Durham. I chose to present this because this one had some unique challenges we had to navigate due to it being a COVID recovery project. So for example, I didn't have brand guidelines ready, which sounds ridiculous to say to this audience, but we had to keep moving to get the message out. And I was wondering if that would feel like a missing piece to the judges, but I chose to include this project anyways because I thought it was a strong case study. And I thought they might be interested to hear how that was handled. So I wanted to show you guys that it doesn't have to be a perfect situation as long as you explain how you handled challenges. And that's really what will make your case studies unique. So if you work in the government or have done work for the government, you may know that there can be a lot of partners involved. So I just took a few slides at the beginning just to help explain the background. So it's not okay if it is okay, sorry, if not all of your slides have a cool visual. So our goal of the Economic Development and Tourism Department is to attract foreign investment and to encourage travelers to stop in Durham region and explore all the great things we have to discover. So when COVID-19 hit in March 2020 and borders closed, we had to pivot like everyone else. So we turned inwards and focused our efforts on recovery projects for our small local businesses. So it came to our attention that the Durham region BIAs were in desperate need of support for the businesses located within Durham's 14 downtown cores during the lockdown at the beginning of the pandemic. These businesses were especially hard hit as they rely on daily foot traffic from workers in the area, and most people were not working or working from home at this time. So my team began setting up weekly virtual calls with the BIAs. We started doing this to learn of what the biggest concerns were for the downtown businesses and what they thought they needed and what we could do to help. The BIAs felt that they needed some type of support local campaign with a website that included a directory of downtown businesses and information on how they were operating. So this was our research process. So my internal team decided a few things moving forward, which are listed here. And I wanted to outline this on a slide because there was many people contributed to this project, including an external agency. And I wanted to be clear on what my responsibilities were since the judges were evaluating me and what I contributed. So this is the Durham Tourism brand, which I designed in-house around the time that COVID hit. We were expecting to launch the new tourism brand in the spring of that year, but needed to pause it because businesses were in a crisis and there were more pressing things we had to shift to. So because we had to pause it, the brand guidelines were not ready to share with the external agency. So what I did was present the same presentation to the agency that we used in-house to get our internal approvals so they could get a sense of the brand. And afterwards, I sent them a simple PDF, just like you see here, with typefaces, colors, icon style, and a few mock-ups. So obviously it's good to have brand guidelines, but again, the circumstances don't have to be perfect for it to be a strong case study. So using this brand allowed the agency to jump into the project with some design direction. And I had already completed the accessibility testing with color contrast, and I was able to provide a color chart with acceptable color combinations for them to follow. So having this ready saved some time in a project that was very urgent, and the other designer didn't have to worry about testing color contrast. So I didn't create this. This was actually a cool tool that's available online. It's on GitHub, but I included it just to show an example of what I was able to provide to the other designer to keep the project moving smoothly, and just to demonstrate the accessibility testing as well. So there was some special meaning behind the colors, and I wanted to touch on that. So I made a slide that just focused on the colors. The concept behind the Durham Tourism brand was that we are a mix of urban and rural. So both modern facilities and heritage sites, and the teal, coral, and chartreuse colors are the modern urban colors, and the warm beige and the denim colors represent the rural areas and heritage sites. So this worked out really well because you can have an urban experience downtown Oshawa and have a fancy dinner and go see a big concert, and you can have a completely different experience in downtown Bowmanville and go to their annual Apple Fest. So we have a mix of historic, charming downtowns as well as modern facilities in our downtowns, and that contrast is what I intended when I chose the colors for Durham Tourism. So the designer at the agency we hired created these icons. I just included this just to show a quick example of something they were able to create based on the direction I provided. And these icons are used throughout the website. While they continued to build the website, I was preparing 14 sets of personalized social media graphics to distribute to the BIAs and other municipal partners to share on their own social media accounts. And since this was a digital project, I used some free Photoshop mockups for personal and commercial use, just to show the artwork in context. And the mockups weren't really cutting it for the slides, so I just chose to show it laid out this way, just to show the range of colors and how the colors can work in different combinations, and also the different downtowns and how many social sets were created. I also created a main set for the Durham Tourism social accounts, and a series of Instagram stories were published over the span of a week. And we used the personalized story graphics that you saw on the last slide on the tourism count as well. So on my last page, I made sure to include some data to show the results of this project. So we now have a directory of downtown businesses in 14 downtowns for residents to use to discover new places to shop or restaurants to order from. So I included some data from the 6-month mark and from last year, but don't feel like you have to wait a whole year after your project is released to be able to show something. A shorter time period is probably fine. So I could have done maybe the first month, and that probably would have been fine. And there's also other types of data that you can show as well. So thank you all for listening. And some final advice I'll leave you with is that the presentation portion of getting certified really wasn't that bad. And I found that it was the easiest part because I used a lot of what I included in my initial application in the presentation. And I booked my presentation about 2 weeks after I did my exam. So I would give myself a hard deadline, and things magically get done when I have a real deadline. So I found that the 2 weeks was plenty of time to prepare for the presentation. So thanks again. I hope you're able to take something away and are excited to work on your own case studies.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alona. That was beautiful work. I did so for everybody so far that's presented. Alona, Kerri, Olu, mass love from everybody in the chat. You guys are doing great. It's great, fantastic work, and really kind of showing off kind of as you go through. What did you learn most about going through this whole process? Because it's like between the exam and bringing everything together, did you have any like takeaways that you were unexpected?
No. Please. I gotta think about it. Well, I guess when I was learning of what I needed to do, I think you guys started these webinars as well. So I was actually able to watch one of these webinars before my own certification, and I found it extremely helpful. So that really put my mind at ease, just seeing everyone else. Because I think, I don't know, in my head, like you just think of like the biggest agencies, like your work has to look like that for the case studies. But I saw the case studies that were presented. I was like, oh, like I have done some great work. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Absolutely. And I think that it's important that everybody kind of does it a little bit differently, and that's okay. There's no like set way of doing these. I think it's really if you're telling the story and you're most important. And I think that's really, it's another thing too, is that the people who you're talking to, like your reviewers, we're designers just like you. We're going to get nerdy. We're going to get excited about the exact same thing that you do. And I think that it's really, we're here because we really want, we have the best intentions, everything, like we want to see you guys succeed. So it's not like we're judging you for a job interview. It's it's like we want to give everybody the job, essentially. Excellent. Thank you so much, Alona. I'm going to move on to our last presenter today. And then hopefully we'll have some time for some roundtable discussions with our presenters at the end of the chat today. If you guys do have any questions in general for the group that you would like to talk, it can be pointed toward one of the presenters or all four, or about the certification process in general. Please use the chat panel, or sorry, not the chat panel, the questions and answer panel. You can put it in the chat. I'll probably see it anyways too. So our last presenter today is Sabrina Young. She's from London, Ontario, my hometown. Sabrina is a multidisciplinary designer with 17 years of industry experience. Her work ranges from small advertising agencies to large in-house creative teams. For just shy of a decade, Sabrina has worked at the Canada Life Assurance Company as the associate manager of graphic design, with a strong focus on user-centered design initiatives on the creative services team. She brings a unique analytical and strategically creative perspective to her role and is known as a digital document accessibility expert. Holy macaroni, had I put a whole bunch of big words in there for me to chew around. The project that you're going to be presenting today is the Constellation Investments Managed Program, Rebrand, and Launch Campaign. Sabrina, I'm excited. It's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, so hello, everyone. The case study that I will be sharing with you is a little bit of a different look at branding from the other presentations. So jumping right in, as Amanda indicated, my case study is on the Canada Life Constellation Rebrand and Launch Campaign. This was the first and most robust case study I showed during my certification presentation. I chose to share this case study with you today because it showcases a large range of tactics and media types that were required for the launch. I was the project's design lead and executed or provided art direction for all of the tactics that I'm about to cover. Any tactic that I did not solely execute, I did highlight to the judges throughout my presentation. For more than 170 years, Canada Life has been a trusted name in providing Canadians life insurance and investment products. In April 2019, they announced the merger of the Great-West Life, Canada Life, and London Life Assurance Company under the new Canada Life brand, which officially became one legal entity as of January 1st, 2020. To meet regulatory requirements under the new amalgamated company, we needed to rebrand all Constellation materials by the end of 2019. So for the campaign, we updated all of the existing client materials with new branding and content. There was a strong desire to maintain a unique look and feel for Constellation within the new Canada Life brand. We also created a specialized advisor campaign to increase advisor awareness and adoption. We produced materials in 4 languages, English, French, Mandarin, and Cantonese, and launched on January 2020. There were 3 main target audiences for the campaign. The primary audience is newer advisors with under 4 years of service and tenured advisors with over 10 years of service. The secondary audience is mass affluent to affluent clients with a minimum of $25,000 to invest per household, targeting ages 25 to 50. The tertiary audience is newer Chinese advisors with under 4 years of service. The original campaign was launched 1 year prior and featured very quirky editorial style persona characters that were no longer fitting for the new branding. Therefore, we started with examining the personas developed previously and looked at research and feedback from the field offices on what resonated best with clients and prospective clients. This helped in the development of the revised persona characters. Peter and Brenda are small business owners. Sarah and Emily are young same-sex couples starting a family. Todd and Amy are the middle-aged family with children. This is the only persona that remained from the original London Life campaign, as they were the least quirky characters of the bunch, and research findings showed that they resonated well with our customers. Jason and Katie are a young adventurous couple. Robert is our single affluent to high net worth individual. For each persona, there was personal and financial related goals. Playing into the concept of each individual has their own unique goals and ties in with the goals-based investing approach of the program. Here are the 3 advisor personas we created to align with the 3 advisor target audiences. Kelsey is our young, newer advisor. Nick is our young Asian advisor, and Joe represents our tenured advisor audience. Overall, I structured my case study to have all of the client materials grouped together up front, followed by the advisor campaign materials. These are the client kits that advisors would share with their clients. They are intended to pique interest in having their investments through the Constellation Managed program. Marketing loved the original London Life version's uniqueness and requested the new pieces have their own distinct look and feel that was customized for Constellation. This was a bit of a tricky ask because the Canada Life branding was so new to the market. I ended up introducing a more subtle, unique design element of having a square keyline over photography that highlights the headline copy and a portion of the photograph that is unique to the Constellation material and is shown on the front cover. There are 4 main components of the client kits: the folder with the stitch-in brochure, pathway funds brochure, the goal setting worksheet, and fund feature sheets customized to the client. All of these include coordinated content throughout. This is the stitch-in brochure that introduces the concepts and provides insights into the program and how it works. The back pocket provides advisors a space to include customized pathway funds information sheets for each of their clients. The goal setting worksheet, in addition to it being available in the client kits, a digital interactive PDF was created with fillable input fields that advisors could email to their clients. The Pathways Fund client brochure is also available within the printed client kits as well as digitally. This brochure provides clients with detailed fund series information that expands on the fundamentals outlined within the stitched-in brochure. I created a series of client persona-based posters that were hung within public client designated areas of the national financial centers. This is the remaining poster designs within the series. There was a poster for each client persona. A large focus of the campaign was directed to advisors. It included detailed information on how they could utilize the Constellation Managed Portfolios program to grow their individual client base and businesses. For the launch, these tactics were included within advisor and wholesaler kits and were distributed to all national financial centers. The kits included a copy of the full client kit and these 3 brochures. They were wrapped within a clear cellophane bag and included a customized launch letter for each target audience. This is the main advisor brochure intended to support advisors and show them how to grow their businesses with the unique tools and advantages that the managed program brings. It showcases all 3 of the advisor personas and illustrates to advisors how they can utilize the managed program to enable them to achieve their own unique goals. The Pathways Fund Advisor Guide provides detailed information on the Pathways Segregated and Mutual Fund series and highlights the competitive advantages for each fund available. The Business Efficiencies brochure is a helpful resource for advisors to manage their clients' investments with focus on offering exceptional service. It illustrates how the managed program ultimately can help advisors create efficiencies in their daily tasks and provides guidance on how to optimize their business. Digital client case studies for advisors are used to support them and provide practical client scenarios of their goals and how that translates into investment opportunities. The digital process guide outlines the various resources available to them and supports them through the process of how to place a client's investment business. Advisor pop-up banners were focused on consistent messaging for each and included advisor personas to reinforce the goals-based solutions the program offers. For client pop-up banners, 3 client persona versions were created, while 1 banner would be placed within each financial center in client-specific areas. As we have a substantial Chinese market within various areas of the country, it was chosen to also produce Chinese adaptations for most of our client materials. The content was adapted to best suit the Chinese market and were typeset by our vendor that specializes in Chinese. All new personas were created and new accompanying imagery was introduced to have stronger impact and connection with this particular market segment. We have also produced Chinese adaptations of our main advisor brochures. These were also created with customized content adapted to better relate to our Chinese advisors and typeset by our vendor. 2 out of the 3 advisor personas were adapted with new imagery and updated content for better alignment with the business goals and objectives. The new imagery for these were sourced by a supporting designer. All Chinese materials are available in both Mandarin and Cantonese languages. The campaign created an excitement amongst targeted advisors who were thrilled to use it with their clients. Advisors indicated that the new persona development updates resonated more with their clientele base over the original London Life materials. The simplified messaging present throughout all of the materials made them more appealing to both advisors and clients. The total net sales through Constellation for 2020 was 123 million, up 20 million from the total net sales in 2019 under the London Life branding. The sales for the first 5 months of 2021 matched the sales for all of 2020, utilizing all of the same marketing materials developed. Thank you. That concludes my case study presentation.
Excellent. Thank so much. Wow, that was 4 amazing case studies. I'm so happy with everything. Sabrina, that was excellent. Did you enjoy the process overall? Like, was it difficult for you, or was it a lot more laid back than you expected it to be?
I gave myself a substantial amount of time to go through the process because I am quite busy, but I wanted to make sure I had time for it and dedicated the time appropriately that I wanted to put into it. Overall, some of my imagery that I had presented was a little bit more polished because I had also entered this particular case study into the RGD in-house awards originally. So not, this one didn't particularly win an award, but I did win an award for a different one of my case studies, in fact. But so I had made it a bit more polished just because I was having double purpose for it.
Excellent. Excellent. So I have a couple of questions that did come through the question and answer tab. Abdul, I don't know if you can get everybody's video back up for our 4 presenters. So if you guys do have any additional questions, I just want to say that there's some mad love in the chat window for all 4 of you. Very, very, very great work. You've inspired a lot of great designers today, so that's fantastic. There's two questions that kind of are related that came through the question and answer period, where it says, if we have really great work, but it's stuck in the approval process due to corporate decisions beyond our control, can we still use it as a portfolio piece? And very similarly is, can we use projects that are complete, but the client has chosen not to launch right now due to COVID? So through the process, we originally had, you have to have work, I believe, if I read it right, you have a 12-month window for a certain number of pieces. We've extended that to 24 months due to COVID and projects that have happened in COVID. Part of the process, you do have to share results, whether qualitative or quantitative results from the work, how it was accepted, followers on Instagram, financial uplift, something along those lines for each one of them. So you can, if it's been put on hold, unfortunately, no. But if it's complete and it was put on hold due to COVID, I have sat in on portfolio presentations that, the entire campaign was complete and it was finished, but it was kiboshed or put on hold due to COVID. So, and they were still allowed to, were able to get some kind of qualitative results from that as well too. So if you do want to have any more deep down questions, or you have something specific, my advice to you would be to reach out to Heidi Very, or through the RGD website, and she'll be very, very happy about getting you hooked up as well too. So I'm just going to ask one question and amount of time. We've got 3 minutes here. Alona, Olo, Sabrina, Kerri, any word of advice that you can give to somebody who's kind of sitting on the fence? Like Alona, you were saying, it's like you saw one of these presentations and you're like, you know what, I can do that too. You can go through the process. What would you say to those designers out there right now?
Me or any of us?
Any of you. Alona, you can go first because that was kind of hinging off of your comment.
Well, just adding to that what I said before, I thought it was the easiest part, and I would say just practice and plan what you're going to say. Don't wing it. Practice it out loud more than once. Time yourself so you respect everyone's time. I found that it was actually really easy to go over half an hour. I had a minor moment of panic because I was timing myself just on my phone and I realized I had 7% battery. So charge your phones.
That's a good one. Kerri, do you have any words of advice?
I think that continuing on that last bit about timing, and yeah, have your phone charged, awesome. But using your phone to time is super helpful. I was doing that, and I broke it down per piece, so it wasn't like just an overwhelming 30 minutes. I had already mapped out that I was going to spend more time on my more elaborated piece. So the one that I showed you guys today was my in-depth piece, I suppose. So I had more pieces in there. I had the sketch work in there. So I chose to allot more time to presenting that one. And then my other case studies that I presented way quicker, just highlights and skim through them. But I had already set what those times were. So I just did like 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, and then 10 minutes or whatever it was, and did the stopwatch on my phone. I found that really, really helpful to keep on time and on track. And yeah, having that agenda mapped out in my mind was helpful, and I think that would be helpful for you.
Excellent. Olu?
Yeah, I'll say the practice part is very important. Personally, I like presentations are like pretty nerve-wracking for me. So I discovered that when I was able to connect my love for the design I'm presenting and just wanting to be certified and like practicing over and over again, I kind of got better. And I just want to also say that like just start somewhere. Like I started with a pen and a jotter because I was kind of tired. My eyes were getting sore because like I know I'm preaching to the choir here. You don't want to sit on the screen and like, you know, work on another case study because you've been working on the screen for like 8 hours, right? So like sometimes it's even just taking a pen and a paper, like just breaking down whatever you have in mind, or sometimes you remember stuff like maybe in the shower, get out of shower, like sometimes just jot things down. And I feel that the resources online also help every step of the way. Like if you go through them, like it's like simple as ABC to go through. Yeah, so slowly and surely you're gonna get there.
My best work comes in the shower. I have the phone that's right there when I get out of the shower, so I can type or text somebody or whatever, capture those ideas. Kerri? Or no, sorry, Sabrina. I got Kerri.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I agree with everything that's already been said. Like one thing I do want to highlight is that case study that I shared was very robust and quite large. Some of my other case studies were really more simplistic. There was maybe only a couple of pieces or really one larger piece, that kind of thing. When I was going through my presentation for my certification, that was definitely the one that I spent the most time on, just because of the number of tactics as well. That's why I chose to focus on it. And there was a lot of work that went into it. I completely blanked on what else I was going to say. I'm sorry. Yeah, basically, I had a similar kind of thing. I wanted to give myself a lot of time to fill out the application and that kind of thing. I worked on the application and my presentation simultaneously, but I agree, like the presentation part was easy. It was the write-ups that I felt like I spent more time on, and trying to gather some of the results, because, you know, as designers, we don't always get to see or hear the results feedback back. So getting that information and tracking it down was probably the most time consuming out of the entire process. But I felt that it was really rewarding overall, and I'm really glad that I did it.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. I want to say thank you again. I did post a link in the chat panel for those who are looking at starting this process, but want to kind of get their toes into the water a little bit. We are looking for testers of our test. So part of the exam part of this of the certification is we've got some new sections that are coming out, so you can apply to for free to sample some of these test questions. And the great news is, if you pass, you've got 50% or more, then it can actually count toward your certification. So, you know, you're kind of already in it to win it. So if it's something that you would like to do, that's there as well too. We have creative directions, our conference that's going to be starting it's going between February 14th and 19th, or February 14th to 18th. Fantastic virtual conference for those at all stages of their careers. whether you're, you're a seasoned professional designer or you're just starting out and really just starting getting into the field of graphic design, you'll find that you'll have something in there for you, for sure. Lots of inspiration and a great conference to kind of go for. It's not as robust as Design Thinkers, so it's definitely an entry-level conference that is great to be a part of. And our next Freshly Certified webinar is scheduled for May 18th. Topic to be decided if we're just looking for some educators and some teachers. So if you're an educator or a teacher that would like to go through the process, apply now and get on it. And we would love to show off your work. So that's where we're at. So thank you, Sabrina, Kerri, Ulu, Alona. You're amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.